wrong, never will I ever end me. I like ice, but you cry on yourself, cause it was about war. 58 counties screaming for the mind. The war's coming forth, never with the disguise. Another A-box for you, who really wants it. Shroud medals in my vocabulary. Rolling with the punches, I'm roping and jumping. Dealing with the problems, I got to be coping. Making it fit, and I click just like a Lego. I'll be Casio, but you can be Tiger from the FBI to the CIA. I'm clearing out the path and here to LA. I be from C-Town, kicking the roof there, ripping up the mic and way past sundown. As the world turn. As the world turn.
And we are back. The Prospects of the Land podcast is here with Taven McCauley as usual. My name is Nate Wilpin. A pleasure to be joining you this fine Tuesday afternoon. Taven, how we doing, my friend?
Was doing good until yesterday. Obviously we saw that Emmanuel Clase is indeed human, but it's gonna be tough.
You got one of those games
obviously proved
every
by
now
Cy
and
Young.
again. Yeah, and you've got some of those games every now and again. And we'll talk about the Guardians here towards the end of the show. What we want to do for all you fine people today is we know that the minor league baseball season has wrapped up. Arizona fall ball has been going on, and there are, again, players jumping around to all sorts of teams. I think just yesterday there was 1 or 2 games that took place. I think Tolentino played in the game. Lenny Torres played in the game. There was one more that I recognized yesterday, but I think it might have just been Tolentino and Torres. Anyway, the Arizona Fall League is going on, and if there's any notable things to talk about, we'll update you fine people on that sort of as we go along, and obviously talk guard ball as long as there is guard ball to talk about. There might not be next week, but knocking on all the wood, hopefully we will have a championship series to talk about. What we want to do for all you fine people today, we got a list of awards that we want to hand out, just some personal awards. Again, this means absolutely nothing for the most part. Means something to us, but we're going to be going through and just sort of giving you guys just sort of our minor league awards here. Taven, you want to tell them a little bit more about some of the awards we're handing out today?
Yeah, for sure. So I don't have a list in front of me, but I will get it up right now. So we have MVP, Cy Young, Defensive Player of the Year, Most Improved, Pitcher and Hitter, switched it up this time around, Breakout Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, or Manager of the Year, Rookie of the Year, which is their first year in pro ball, and Reliever of the Year.
What I decided to do with that award is I decided to go with their first full year. So I didn't put like Travis Bazzana on that list, or I didn't put like, like Rafe Schlesinger or anyone else on that list. No, first full year of pro ball and sort of what they did. And obviously we'll talk about how we chose everyone when we get into our certain awards. But before we dive on into that, how's life? How's life outside of baseball? How is the life of Taven McCauley going?
Pretty good. Not much to complain about. Got a lot of high school football coverage, so keeping busy with that. What's happening in your world?
I drove 2 hours and 15 minutes-ish for sub-district softball yesterday, there and back, about 2.5 hours south of where I am right now. That was fun. Got a lot of compliments on my broadcast of that, which was very nice. But otherwise, Tuesdays are the days where I run around like a chicken with my head cut off. It doesn't look like I know what I'm doing at all. Trust me, I know exactly what I'm doing. I just have a lot to get done on Tuesdays. All right, sir, let's just go ahead and dive right on in here because, again, we're not going to go in the order that you went and said because obviously that wouldn't be fun. We got to save the biggest award for last. So let's start out with probably the easiest award to hand out here. I understand that you got some graphics. There it is. I mean, come on. This is the easiest one here. Omir Santos has got to be the Manager of the Year within the organization. I don't think I need to elaborate on this one too much, but I will tell you for anyone who may not know who this is, manager of the Lake County Captains, obviously Midwest League champions this year. Taven, I'm sure you will elaborate a little bit more because your pick is the same as mine.
Yeah, I had the same exact one, and it's the only right choice. I mean, he's obviously just a no-brainer. He won a championship for them, but, I mean, even getting to the playoffs with how much I mean, that roster's changed. You had guys like your MVP, Cooper Engel, and your all-stars and Austin Peterson and Parker Messick leave you, and he just filled that kind of void with the newer guys that he got, and the Bazzanas and the Velasquez and Angel Hanau. So just guys like that he was just able to plug in. So obviously, no doubt about it, Manager of the Year in my eyes, Omir Santos.
Yeah, I mean, easy, right? That one was just absolutely way too easy, and I really don't have anything else to say on him. We hope he can come back and be the manager of the Captains next year. Maybe he takes DeCenzo's job with the Ducks. Who knows? Maybe he comes up to the Clippers as well. I mean, this guy is definitely someone that you could see with the Guardians here in just a couple of years. I mean, he made some great decisions. As you said, he managed the roster through a ton of change this year, and the Captains' second half team was completely different than that first half team. Got a couple of new draftees on that team playing their first professional baseball entirely. So really good stuff that we saw out of Omir Santos this year. What's the next one we're handing out? I believe it's reliever of the year. Is that correct?
Yeah, another easy one in obviously my eyes, but you go ahead, start it.
Yeah. Another pretty easy one in my eyes there as well. I decided to go with a guy that, look, he's made it to the major league level. He pitched maybe 6 or 7 games there with Cleveland. He spent most of the season in the minor leagues this year. 4-0 am I on MILB? Yes, I am. 2.32 ERA, 79 strikeouts, over 50 innings pitched. 4-0, or I say 4-0 is his win-loss record. I'll say his ERA again, a 2.32 ERA. I mean, come on. It's Andrew Walters. He is absolutely disgusting. I love everything that Andrew Walters is about. We'll just kind of give you a little bit here of, again, what he did in the minors. Only allowed 13 runs. Now, the home run is definitely an issue of his, sure, but 79 strikeouts, only allowed batters to hit 180. You take a look at some of his advanced career stats. They're absolutely unbelievable. They're insane. Andrew Walters is a guy that, I mean, we talked about it. Again, another guy that is playing his first pro year of baseball this year, I do believe. He's a guy that you could look at and say, I mean, obviously we could have given the rookie of the year to him there as well, but this is the guy that's going to be a staple in this Cleveland bullpen for a long, long time. We know how good the bullpen is. He still has not allowed anything, and I'm not remembering off the top of my head if he made that playoff roster or not. I believe he did, but regardless, Andrew Walters was phenomenal for his short time in Akron. He was absolutely outstanding during his time with Columbus and has been even more impressive during his time with the big league club this season. My reliever of the year is Andrew Walters.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of a common theme for the first two. I have the same guy. Two very great honorable mentions. Lenny Torres, who I originally gave it to at the midpoint of the season, but Walters did get to the major leagues. He finished better than Lenny Torres did. Lenny Torres struggled a little bit with Erie at the end, so I was going to give the edge to Walters. And Bradley Hanner's another dude who's a runner-up too. I mean,
another guy that you could look at and say most improved, but we won't spoil it down the line.
Yeah, I mean, both those guys are awesome, but Andrew Walters, you mentioned, his first full year in pro ball, and I mean, he's just exceeded all expectations. Started the year in Akron, and actually started the year with both those guys in Akron, so that was just an insane bullpen. But, right, I mean, just kind of climbed the ranks quick. He's made the postseason roster, and he's looked dominant in every single place he's been, in Akron and Columbus, and he's figuring it out in Cleveland. So it's going to be fun to watch this guy down the road.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're around the Ducks a lot. I had an internship with the Akron Rubber Ducks this year, and the one thing that kept circulating during my very short time when me as an intern and Andrew Walters as a player were both there in Akron, the thing that you kept hearing about this guy was enjoy him while he is here, because he's not going to be here long, because he is truly just an exceptional talent that, again, is just going to absolutely be a staple of this Cleveland rotation and this Cleveland bullpen for many, many years to come. And honestly, could be a guy that you could look at and say, I mean, definitely someone that could kind of mold into an Emmanuel Clase role if, again, Clase wasn't Emmanuel Clase. Next one. Rookie of the year. All right. Guy playing your first full year of professional baseball. CJ Kayfus had 17 games with Single A Lynchburg in the Carolina League back in 2023. This is his first full season. This year was his first full season, and I could think of no one better to give it to than CJ Kayfus. Overall, 291 batting average, had a 904 OPS during his time with the Captains and the Rubber Ducks this season. The strikeout to walk ratio is something that he started out really well with in 2023, kind of got away from it a little bit this season, almost had 2 strikeouts to every 1 walk. You want to get that down to 1-1, but obviously a young player that can absolutely work on that. Not a guy that's going to beat you on the base paths, but 17 home runs this season, 118 total hits. You look at even some of his advanced stats, he had almost a 100-point increase in his BABIP, that is batting average on balls in play. He hit 366 when he put the thing in the yard of this season. He's an absolutely exceptional player that I would be appalled if he didn't make the big leagues in the next couple of seasons. An absolutely incredible talent. I think we see him in Columbus to start out next season. My rookie of the year is CJ Kayfus.
Yeah, 100%. I think you're right. Well deserving of the award. I'm going to go Cooper Ingle though, and you'll see why a little later down the road. But I mean, we've been over the moon about Cooper Ingle. I mean, it seems like all year, even when he was in Lake County back in, I want to say July when we started this up. I mean, the catch. 4th round pick last year, this first full year pro ball, obviously, and he's hit 305 as a catcher. You don't see that anywhere else. 305, hitting above even 260 is impressive for a catcher nowadays, and he's been able to hit 300. And obviously, he was the MVP of that Midwest League, so kind of just hammers the point home. And then he had 11 home runs too, so he could hit the long ball, 7 stolen bases, and .897 OPS. So, I mean, just great stats all over the board. He's good defensively. He's good offensively. Cooper Ingle's my rookie of the year.
Again, I think later down the line when we say our MVP, you're going to kind of figure out why I didn't put Cooper Ingle in the same spot that you did. Well, might have just spoiled a pick there. We'll see if people have long-term memory. All right, let's move on forward into the next one there, which I do believe, most improved. So let's go ahead and go through the most improved pitchers. So with this one, I kind of wanted to go on someone that had been in the minor leagues for at least a little bit, someone that's a little bit on the older side and not someone that just came from college, or you look at the little baseball that they played last year and sort of made a jump this year. So the guy that I ended up landing on for my pitcher was Tommy Mace. And quite simply, there's a very good statistical reason for that. And as soon as the stat sheet that I have in front of me loads, I'll be able to tell you what that is. Okay, so in 2023, he had a 6-6 record with a 4.63 ERA, started 17 games, had about 114 innings pitched, 103 strikeouts, and allowed opponents to hit 265 off of him. Walked 54 batters, gave up a lot of home runs, gave up a lot of earned runs, a ton of hits, and just wasn't someone that, I mean, you could look at and say, okay, he's a pretty solid starter, but he's not really anything fantastic. This year, Tommy Mace took a big jump. Now, the thing that I would like to see continuing to improve with Tommy Mace is I would love to see Tommy Mace improve in his strikeout rate. He only had 1 more strikeout this year than he did last year in a much larger sample size. 30 more innings, I think even above that. Improve your strikeout rate if you are Tommy Mace. He did, though, improve the strikeout to walk rate a little bit this year. That's something that I looked at. He improved and allowed opponents to hit 30 points less, 265 last year, 236 this season. That's what he allowed opponents to hit off him, and improved his ERA by almost a full point. 4.63 last year, 3.71 this season. I mean, yeah, the home run is still a problem. He's still maybe giving up way too many hits, but Tommy Mace, the jump that he made and some of the stuff that you even see here, this pitcher one was really, really hard to find because no one really made a super big and impressive jump quite like Tommy Mace did. The ERA, the batting average, that is what helped out Tommy Mace a lot this year and probably helped playing in a little bit of a pitcher-friendly ballpark in Akron there as well. But nonetheless, Tommy Mace, man, you can't argue with that ERA improvement, that batting average improvement. Tommy Mace is my most improved pitcher.
Yeah, 100%. I can see where you're coming with for my most improved pitcher. I'm going to go with Florida State Seminole. I'm going to go with Parker Messick. Parker Messick, he played his last season was his first full season in pro ball. So last year he went 5-6 with a 3.77 ERA. This year he went up. And it seems like every single stat in more games. He went 9-6. 9-6 was his record with a 2.83 ERA. So, I mean, cut down the ERA by, it seems like an entire point almost. Had 4 more wins than he did last year. Limited the long ball to only 10 instead of 11. Nothing crazy there. But last season, he had it was right in front of my face. Strikeouts. He had 136 strikeouts this season. He cut that down, or excuse me, put it up to 165 strikeouts. So Parker Messick, in it seems like every single stat, he just went up and beyond, and that's what I'm gonna. That's why he's my most improved pitcher. You know, in game 2 of the playoffs, he was absolutely dominant, and you saw that. I want to say he didn't give up a single run, or he might have gave up one. But he was the reason why the Ducks won that game. So most improved pitcher is going to be Parker Messick.
Again, a guy that could totally be deserving of this award as well. He may or may not be on my list for a different award, and I did not double up anybody on my award list, so stay tuned for that. Okay, let's go on the hitting side of things now. Offensively, to me, it's got to be Christian Cairo. Again, another one that was hard to find. You could give it to Joe Lampe, you could give it to Milan Tolentino, but compared to last year, I mean, the batting average and the impact, I just don't think had enough impact as Christian Cairo. Last season, played in Lake County, and read you his stat line here: 239 batting average, a 727 OPS, and for what we know Christian Cairo to do, had 10 steals and 5 caught stealings. The strikeout to walk ratio honestly was pretty good last season, but other than that, I just don't think his impact was felt. I believe even hurt a little bit last year, or maybe didn't even play a whole ton this year. Prior, though, the year that just finished here in 2024, started in Akron, made that jump to Columbus, and he made his impact felt on the base pass. In 30 steal attempts this year, stole 26 bags. The batting average improved by only 1/1000th of a point. 239 last year, 240 this year. The OPS went down. It's just because he's playing at a higher level, and the strikeout to walk ratio obviously not as good, but hit 4 home runs. You go back to 2021 where he hit 6. 4 home runs is the most he's had in a season since that performance there in 2021. And for a guy that has battled just up and down, back and forth between rookie ball and high A and single A, and now climbing the ranks through Akron and all the way up to Columbus, especially being a guy that once he gets on the base paths is a guy that can go steal any bag you need him to. At 26 steals this season, a guy whose impact I think was absolutely felt. A big reason why Columbus had that second half surge and the Clippers ended up making the playoff. To me, it's Christian Cairo. This one was really tough for me as well. You heard me say a couple other names, and I'll say them again: Joe Lampe, Milan Tolentino, a couple other players sitting down there in Carolina that I could have said there as well. But to me, it's Christian Cairo.
Yeah, 100%. Cairo, he was one of the guys on that list, Milan Tolentino, and then my most improved hitter is a guy that you kind of already mentioned. It's going to be Joe Lampe. Lampe, he hit 249 this year. Last season, he hit 235. So he improved in that category as well. He had a little less RBIs, but it could have been on the team maybe. But if there was not a real drastic change in Lampe's numbers compared to last year, and that's, you can look at it and be like, oh, all right, well, you kind of got to look at the stats. But if you watch Lampe play, the hits that he gets, he has came up in every clutch moment for the Ducks this season.
Same with Tolentino too.
Exactly, yeah. And the only really part of the season I saw Lampe struggle in was that playoff series at the end. And I mean, you needed a clutch rally at the end of that game 3, and he was the guy that got to second for you. So he steals bases. He can hit. He's a great fielder out in that outfield. Joe Lampe, he's my most improved hitter. Just every
again,
category.
It was so close for me, man. If we had enough time and enough graphic space, I obviously would have put probably all 3 guys there because I think they all deserved that mention. Obviously, Cairo's playing the quote-unquote highest level of baseball right now. But, yeah, I really couldn't agree with you anymore there in Joe Lampe. Next one is, I forget where we're going, breakout player. Okay, this is where Parker Messick sits. So, yes, you could give Parker Messick the sort of overall most improved pitcher. Absolutely. To me, a breakout player is a guy that maybe is someone that you weren't really talking about as a huge threat to the rotation. You weren't talking about as a huge threat to the bullpen, to the batting order. Just kind of a guy that, you know, would play some solid baseball every now and again and for all intents and purposes fill up a roster space. That was kind of Parker Messick there in 2023. You've went through some of his stats already. I'll go through his stats here again. 3.77 ERA, a 5-6 record in 24 games last year, over 121 innings, gave up 51 runs, 11 homers, walked 39 guys, struck out 136, allowed opponents to hit 236. Like, still overall pretty darn good season, right? Parker Messick was a different beast this season. 222 average, 165 strikeouts to only 44 walks, lowered that home run total, lowered that earned run total. It over a larger sample size there, 133 innings as compared to 121, lowered that ERA by almost a full point to 283, 9-6, and was darn near a bona fide ace for both the Lake Erie Captains and the Akron Rubber Ducks. And like you said, absolutely dominated game 2 of that playoff series for, or was it game 1? Game 1.
Game 2.
Yeah, game 2. That's what I thought. Absolutely dominated game 2 of that playoff series against the Erie Seawolves. This is a guy that, I mean, most improved pitcher, sure, you could definitely say that, but because of the impact that he had on this rotation, on this clubhouse, Parker Messick was a guy that you looked at last season and thought, okay, I mean, this guy's a pretty solid pitcher, but he's got some weaknesses. Now you take a look this year and you think, whoa, like this is a guy I don't want to face at all. This guy is really scary. He's really good. This is my breakout player of the year.
Yeah. Obviously, I had him earlier on. My breakout player of the year is going to be a guy went to Georgia, Ryan Webb. Last year, he pitched 86 2/3 of an inning. This year, he almost doubled that and went 141. So I didn't really keep up with him last year. I want to say they used him out of the bullpen then, just from the jump between the innings. But this last year, maybe out of the bullpen, he went 3-5 with a 3.22 ERA. This year, 6-7. The record not the best, but a 2.80 ERA. Absolutely lowered that. I mean, doesn't give up many long balls either. Only gave up 7 this year. Gave up 6 last year, but again, he almost doubled his innings. So the fact that he just stayed dominant even in that starter role, and he's been fully healthy this year. Even the strikeouts went from 87 last year to 151 this year. Dude is just an absolute beast. Only let hitters hit 242 against him. Ryan Webb's my breakout player of the year. I mean, just absolutely great. Akron and Columbus.
Yeah, absolutely, guy. That's absolutely, guy. That's deserving of that award there as well. I think you got 3 more here on tap.
3.
Yeah,
Yep,
3. 3 more on tap. All right, let's go to one of the bigger awards now. For all intents and purposes, the Gold Glove, the defensive player of the year, and maybe a little bit of bias creeped in on this pick, but to me, this is an absolute no-brainer. I mean, watching Yordis Valdez play shortstop, oh my goodness, he makes some of the hardest, most difficult plays look like he practices them on the daily, and he does them with such ease and such finesse and such beauty. I mean, just if you are unfamiliar with who this guy is, we've raved about him all season long, especially from a defensive standpoint. The bat can come around a time or two there as well, but his value is so much infinitely more valuable as a defensive player. Watching him play shortstop is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's like watching Andres Jimenez play second base. It is some of the best defense you will ever watch on a baseball diamond. I love Yordis Valdez. I love what he's about. I love him from a defensive standpoint. This guy has got to be my Gold Glove or my defensive player of the year.
100%. Yordis, obviously, he's a great candidate, and he's probably my number 2. I'm sticking with the theme from last time, though. I mean, he didn't play a full season, but
not even with the organization anymore.
But is still the best. And if you're gonna throw a flag on this again, I will change mine to Yordis. But Cox did play
a
high percentage with the Guardians organization, and Connor Cox is the best fielder I've ever seen in my entire life. He is. Anything hit to him, he's catching. Insane catches. He almost got play of the year, which he should have. It went to Milan Tolentino, but I think Connor's catch in center field this year was much better. But, I mean, just watch him play. He's diving catch after diving catch, robbing home runs. It's just not fair when you hit a ball to this guy. I have a highlight tape, even on my Instagram, just dedicated to all this dude's defensive plays. I'm just absolute demon out there. Connor Cox, defensive player of the year, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to stick with guys that were in the organization. Again, like you said, if you wanted to throw a flag on it, Connor Cox got cut. He's not with the organization anymore. And it was because he didn't really bring a whole lot with the bat. But as you said, I mean, yeah, still an absolutely fantastic fielder. I just also feel like with picking Yordis Valdez. If you were to take Yordis Valdez away and put someone else in place, it wouldn't really work out the best because Yordis has got one of the best shortstop gloves I've seen from a prospect. You go into the outfield, though, Joe Lampe has stepped up and made some really good defensive plays in Connor Cox's absence. So I'm not saying he's a better fielder, but he's stepped in there and made some really, really, really good plays is just why I made the decision that I did. 2 more, and they are the big boy awards, the Cy Young and the MVP. Who else are we going to give it to? Tugboat. Matt Wilkinson is the Cy Young. I know exactly where you're going, but just listen to these numbers. 169 batting average allowed. That is it. We know we're not the biggest fan of pitching records around here. 8-6. So we'll throw that out the window. You know what it is. You can take it and chuck it. It's gone. 190 ERA in 24 games, including a playoff start, almost 120 innings, only allowed 71 hits, 32 runs, only 25 of which were earned. The home run, yeah, a little bit of a problem for him, but outside of the long ball, he did not let a lot of runners get on base. 174 strikeouts to 37 walks, under a 1 whip, and you even go look at some of the advanced stats. They are absolutely outstanding. Only pitched 1 game in 2023. So again, another guy that is going in to his first full year of professional baseball. Don't be surprised if he starts with Akron, maybe even Columbus next year. This dude has got absolutely wicked stuff, a fastball that can blow by anybody, and some really good breaking stuff as well. And he was valuable from start to finish all year long, from his time in Lynchburg all the way to that playoff series, and obviously winning a championship with the Lake County Captains. Tugboat is your Cy Young winner.
Yeah, great candidate. Obviously, one of the better pitchers that we have in our system. But he's not number 1. And if
the glazing is real, dude,
you got to know where I'm going with this one. It's the best pitcher in all the minor leagues. He's 7-4 on the year, 2.85 ERA over 142 innings, 133 strikeouts, and a 1.18 WHIP. Aaron Davenport. You watch this guy pitch. It's close to Randy Johnson, man. It's something. It is a masterclass. I mean, in the Eastern League, 5th in strikeouts. You have number 1 in ERA, and he's the only guy in the entire Eastern League with an ERA anywhere in the 2s. Strikeouts, 5th, like I said, and then WHIP, he's number 3. So batting average, hitters are only hitting 221 against him. That's 3rd in the Eastern League. I mean, this dude's top seems like 3 in every single category. And again, I don't know how he didn't get Eastern League Pitcher of the Year because I forget who it is. It's somebody with the Mets organization from Binghamton. But whoever got it, Aaron Davenport is better in every single stat besides WHIP, and he's only off by 0.07. Aaron Davenport is my Cy Young, Eastern League Cy Young, Minor League Cy Young, in my opinion.
Randy Johnson is the hottest take I will hear in the calendar year of 2024. Randy Johnson? Randy freaking Johnson. I know the long hair might do it for you, and maybe there's some hypnosis powers that are not working on me, but it's got to be Matt Wilkinson. I'm sorry. I know your affection and your love for this man. You should marry him already. Put a ring on the finger. But this is I would be very interested to hear this case played out over a longer argument. We don't have time to get into it. Tugboat didn't have a start all year where he allowed more than 3 runs.
But I know I always go back to this.
Had at least 4.
I know I always go back to this. Always. And now it was the same when we were arguing about Peterson. Tugboat start of the year in Lynchburg. That is by far easier competition than Davenport's faced.
And Davenport's been in the minor leagues for how long? Oh, that's right.
I don't know. I'm just saying stats, and he's done it at a higher level. I'm going Davenport.
All right. Well, we can hash this out another day, but the MVP. Oh, I see what you did there with the little graphic.
Where the graphic did not work for
That's okay. That's okay. Pretty easy one to me. Obviously, your rookie of the year, the guy that played his first full season, but for me, it was between Jonathan Rodriguez, but he saw a lot of time with the big league club this year. So I decided to go with the guy that only saw the minor leagues and, of course, has a ring on the finger. I don't know if he's married, and if he is, congratulations to Cooper Ingle, but I'm talking about the championship ring. All right, the bling, put a ring on my finger, and Cooper Ingle was the biggest part of that captain's team. Even though he did not finish the series with Lake County, definitely a guy that should be deserving of getting a ring on the finger because he was Midwest League MVP, and my stat sheet went away from me, so forgive me for 1 second. I'm pulling it back up right now, but again, hitting over 260, over 250 as a catcher. Really, really freaking good. Over this entire season, 305 and you said a lot of the same stats. I'm just going to echo what you said. 305 batting average, 897 OPS, 7 stolen bases, and catchers don't usually run. He's got 7 stolen bases. That's pretty good for a catcher. He has more drawn walks than strikeouts, 67 RBIs, hit 11 homers on the year, had over 100 hits in 93 games. Again, that's due to his time with Lake County and with Akron this year. Cooper Ingle, man, if you want to talk about someone at the catcher position that you could look at with the Guardians organization in the next couple of seasons, I'd point out Jacob Cozart, but I would obviously point out this guy right here. If Bo Naylor can't figure out his bat, we know he's got power. For Austin Hedges, he's getting up there in age as soon as he bows out and retires. Sure, you can use David Fry here and there. You'd probably like to use him more so as a DH. Cooper Ingle, I think, fits in there really well, especially if he can continue to hit this well as he continues to climb the ranks. I imagine he probably starts in Akron next year, but a guy that definitely can get up to Columbus and maybe even towards the end of the season, depending on where the Guardians are, depending on what they need next year, could be a guy that you could see behind the plate catching balls and strikes for the some of the pitchers like Shane Bieber and the Tanner Bybee and some of the other guys within this Guardians rotation. He is that good. And as a first-year ball player, are you kidding me, Cooper Ingle? That's absolutely disgusting. It is almost unfair. Clear MVP, in my opinion.
100%. It was tough. It was Ingle or the guy who I have, and you took my rookie of the year. I'm going to take yours. Pretty much just had a flip-flop. MVP, I'm going to give it to CJ Kayfus. It was neck and neck with Cooper Ingle, but end of the day, Kayfus is – I've seen more out of Kayfus, and I think a little bit of bias he kind of plays into it, but Kayfus was with the Ducks more. He had more clutch moments with the Ducks, and just if you watch that to me is what an MVP does. I mean, Cooper Ingle, yeah, he has a better batting average. He has more stolen bases. But CJ Kayfus, he's done it at a higher level a little longer, and his stats are still insane. 291, 17 home runs, 92 RBIs, 5 stolen bases with a .904 OPS. I mean, CJ Kayfus, first full year pro ball. Gotta love what you see out of him. Absolutely killing it in Lake County. Came up to Akron, was still killing it. Not as much, but still on absolute fire. MVP CJ Kayfus.
So, by the way, before we move on here, how telling is it to some of the young talent the Guardians have in this organization that both of our MVPs were also first full year pro ball players? Isn't that just outstanding? That's absolutely ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. Go find another organization where their MVP is playing their first full year of pro baseball. I think it's going to be hard to find.
For sure. I mean, I feel like maybe even in your opinion, Kayfus might have been your runner-up. I know for a fact Cooper Ingle was my runner-up.
Yeah, it was for me. It was between Kayfus and Ingle and Jonathan Rodriguez. Yeah. But obviously Rodriguez saw a lot of time with the big league club this season. Absolutely mashed in AAA Columbus, and a guy that probably will be back in Columbus, if not with the Guardians, at the start of next season. I imagine he goes into Columbus. I imagine the Guardians roster is pretty much set there for next year. Obviously, you'll have the main core, and we can talk about that once the Guardian season ends. But I mean, there are so many good names here that we did not mention. I mean, Ralphie Velasquez, Jason Churio. Those are just, again, Travis Bazana, obviously, that probably is a
Chase
guy that
DeLauder, if he's healthy.
Chase DeLauder. Yeah, that's probably a couple of those guys that we just said might be on this list next season. A lot of guys in the bullpen that obviously didn't get mentioned. Just what you got to understand. The people that we put out here and said, hey, these are your winners for these awards, were the best of the best. There's so many good players within this organization that are doing so many wonderful, fantastic things. And a lot of the guys that you saw here on this list, probably most of them within the next 2 to 3 years, maybe even sooner, you could see with the big league club. But that's all I got here for the awards, unless you want to throw out anyone else, or if the chat has any other award that they would like us to hand out.
Nothing from me, nothing from the chat. Obviously you said it, best of the best. Like, I think reliever of the year might have been the most stacked, like Bradley Hanner, and I would probably say at least 25 other organizations. He's going to take it.
Walters and Sabrowski and Hickman and Ellert and
Franco Aleman,
Torres
Lenny
and
Torres,
and
Trey Benton before he went down was on absolute rule. Tyler Thornton, he's gotten his stuff together this year. So, just everybody from top to bottom, bullpens.
This truly is, I think, going to be a fascinating spring training. And I know there were a couple guys in the fall league there as well. I'm going to actually pull up the fall league as we're still kind of talking about minor league players here. I'll tell you what some players did. I'm going to go to the sort of, because I think it just, it started yesterday and there was only one game. So I'll go through a couple of the names here that ended up, playing well. Lenny Torres ended up getting the loss yesterday. It was a 1-0 ball game. Torres just happened to give up the only run in the game, so Lenny Torres will pick up the loss. But you go look at the Saguaros, I believe, is where a lot of the players are going there. Milan Tolentino went 1 for 3, also drew a walk there in that contest. Lenny Torres only pitched a third of an inning and then gave up the walk-off there as well. So just a struggle of a day there for him. That actually might not have been Lenny Torres, I don't think.
I don't think it was. I don't think I saw Lenny on that roster.
Yeah, so it was not. It was Milan Tolentino that was there for sure.
I think Alan Hernandez, isn't it?
Yeah.
I want to say he's the one that picked up the loss. I know he's playing.
No, Torres was the one that picked up the loss in that game, but whoever Torres happens to be, it's not Lenny Torres Jr., which should be something that we mentioned. But yeah, a lot of the prospects in the organization are already going down there. I know for sure Chase DeLauder is on an Arizona Fall League team. I'm trying to think of who else I saw. A couple of the good pitching
Milan
prospects.
Tolentino, Alaska Abney's a guy that went down there too. Cody Huff, I know he went down there as well. I'm really trying to find. I tried to find a list, and I don't know if there was something that came out, but I did not see it. I know Guardians Prospect had put it out, and I'm trying to. Here it is. All right, Alaska Abney.
Hang on. Give me a minute. I'm gonna find it. Sorry for the weird, awkward silence, but I'm going to find it. You said Guardians Prospective on Twitter put it out?
Yeah, I got it up right now.
Yeah, but I want to find it too.
Solid mix here. A lot of decent amount of Akron guys. Lake County too.
Tyler Freeman's down there. Chase DeLauder.
Guards Insider.
Oh, it was Guards Insider?
Yeah.
All right. Do they have the full list there of?
Yeah.
Okay. So Angel Martinez, I know, is on the list now. So, so here's something else that we should mention as well. The all prospect teams came out. The all prospect first and second teams came out. So I'm going to go through really quickly to see, because I think there's one or two names there. Yeah, Angel Yanao made that list, as did Matt Wilkinson. They're both second team. So
Yeah,
congratulations to both of them.
gotta
Amazing.
love that.
That's all of minor league baseball, by the way. That is all of minor league baseball. Obviously, I feel like they lost out a ton of guys, but that's okay. Where is this thing from Guards Insider?
9/25/24. It's fairly old.
Oh, wow.
I'll rattle through some of the names that you're looking for.
Okay.
You got
Yeah.
Abney,
I got it here.
Chase DeLauder, Dylan DeLucia, Alan Hernandez, Cody Huff, Zach Kent, Andrew Mesisic. We always butcher that one.
Yeah,
and
he's
Milan
with the Clippers.
Tolentino. So, I mean, you got two guys from the Clippers, Zach Kent and Andrew, and then Milan Tolentino,
with
Cody
the Clippers
Huff.
as well.
Yeah, and Abney from Akron, and then you got two guys from Lake County. So solid mix in there. Alan Hernandez, great pitching prospect. I thought he was amazing in that Midwest Championship Series. DeLucia, obviously, really cool, good young guy. Excited to see what he can do too. And then Abney, who's absolutely dominant this year. Tolentino, who found a groove. DeLauder, praying to God he can stay healthy in that league and not go down with another injury. Cody Huff, a catcher who really found his kind of stride. And then two bullpen arms in Zach Kent and Andrew Mesisic, who
we're gonna find out how to say that last name at some point. We'll find it. We will have it prepared. We'll have it ready. Who out of those 8 names that you there just mentioned, the list I'm looking at now, who's the prospect you're most interested to watch down there? I think to me it's got to be Chase DeLauder.
For sure. Obviously, just because he was injured and barely even played the first. All right, he didn't even play. Or yeah, no, he did. Barely played the first half of the season. Played a little bit in the second half. But outside of him, if we really need somebody else, Lask Abney. I really like what I saw out of him. He was absolutely tearing it up. And Cody Huff, I'm just excited to see what he can do with the bat. Obviously, one of the best defensive catchers in the game, but bat was starting to come around at the end of last year. I mean, the first half he kind of struggled, like most catchers do. They kind of float in the 220 range, but last half of that season, he was up to 250, 260. So Cody Huff, I'm excited to see what he can do.
Yeah, I think to me it's DeLauder, just because you got to look at how he can stay healthy and how his production is. And obviously, I think Guardians Prospective and Guards Insider, they're on Twitter or X. They'll probably post a lot of information and how they do. I know for sure the guy that I was looking at before, Guardians Prospective, tweeted out. 1 second. Give me 1 second. Oh, by the way, happy birthday, Tim Herron.
Big old Tim. Yeah.
Happy birthday. Yeah. So Tolentino and Hernandez were the two that have already played. Again, Tolentino 1 for 3 with a walk. I forgot to mention the stolen base he had though. And then Hernandez, 2 innings pitched, nothing given up except 1 walk, and struck out 1 over his 6 outs of baseball. So if anything interesting happens in the Arizona Fall League, we'll definitely keep you updated on it. But it's time to talk about the big league club, unless we got any minor league questions from the chat or from anyone else. Sorry, I felt something down. All right, we're good. What?
None. Let's go on guard ball.
Okay, let's go guard ball. Game 1. Let's start there. Let's start on a high note. First off, you came out and you did what you needed to do. It was a bullpen game for Detroit, a 5-run first inning, and Lane Thomas, he saw everyone's August tweets. Don't you dare. I will tolerate no more Lane Thomas slander.
I was a part of that too.
Put 1 over the fence. And I told you, just
I know.
Wait. Just wait.
I should have. Yep.
Just wait a minute, and he's come around, man. He's going to play a big part in this series. And then Tariq Skubal, proven why he's the AL Cy Young and even up game 1 and Class A. I mean, you're going to have a game every now and again like that. Giving up a 3-run homer, he just didn't look like he had his best stuff there in that game. And again, that's something that I think a lot of people are looking at and saying, oh my God, they got to Class A. This series is over. you're going to have starts like that. Again, Clase has been phenomenal for the most part this season and hasn't had a game like that in forever. He was due, and especially against the team that is hot in Detroit and that honestly hit so much better in game 2 than they did in game 1 and hit so much better than Cleveland. Cleveland got out. Allergies. Cleveland got out of a lot of jams there in that first game, and they did well to get out of those jams. Matthew Boyd got himself out of 2 or 3. A couple of relievers got themselves out of a couple jams there. It was only going to be a matter of a time before Detroit ended up pushing some runs across the plate. It just so happened it's against probably the best pitcher in baseball, at least the best closer in baseball, in Emmanuel Clase. Series is even at 1. Honestly, in my opinion, kind of how I figured this series was going to go, not necessarily on a game-to-game basis, but I did kind of have this sort of idea that we were going to go into Detroit tied, considering that Skubal was going to pitch one of those first 2 games. And I mean, the Guardians had an opportunity there in the 6th to sort of solve that puzzle. They could not end up pushing anything across there in that inning, which again just speaks to how good Tarik Skubal is. So let's get a sort of panic meter, or maybe even a confidence level, panic meter, whatever it is you want to call it. Preface what it is before you say it. Where's your sort of scale on if the Guardians are still able to come away with a series win? Because now it's a best of 3 series with Detroit having home field.
So I'm fine now, because if you look at the rest of the MLB, and I saw this earlier, first time ever, every divisional series has been tied at 1.
It's all tied.
So you're not in a bad spot if you look at the rest of the league. Now, Detroit does have home field advantage, right? And
those fans are going to be hungry. Right.
But here's my thing now. It almost seems, well, for sure, no question about it, you have to get tomorrow's game. No doubt.
Yes.
Thursday,
Game
in my
3 is a must. If you don't win game 3, that's when the ding, 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 sound the panic alarm, because that's going to be scary.
And we know Detroit's a good team. They obviously are in the playoffs. Anybody who makes the playoffs, you're a good baseball team. But I do not want to go to a game 5. And it is just because of the man who will be on that mound. Tarik Skubal, after watching what he did to our offense yesterday, he is already in my top 10 pitchers of all time, and he's only in his 2nd year of pitching.
Let's cool that for a second, see if he can keep this up first. But
he looked pretty good.
Longevity plays a part in that. I'm not denying that he doesn't look good, but I mean, Tarik Skubal is. I mean, I haven't seen a dog
for sure. I haven't seen any pitcher like that in a while. But a lot of people are knocking Clase, which my thing on that is he's human. He's gonna have those games, right? But even if, and it sucks that he gave it up, obviously, but even
it's terrible.
You have to put up a run. You can't win a game 0-0. That's my thing on that.
The thing with
it's not like we had 1 or 2 runs when he gave it up.
And the thing with solving the puzzle against Skubal is the back end of that bullpen is also pretty darn good for Detroit. A guy like Jackson Joby coming up and some of the other relievers that Detroit has in the back end of the bullpen are good. And Cleveland has gone on spells like this season where they just can't find a piece of hitting. I don't think they used all of their hitting in game 1 because obviously past that first inning, they still had a ton of chances to go score. They ended up pushing some more runs across, I believe, in the 5th or the 6th there in game 1. But that's just absolutely something that you can't face Skubal twice. I knew we would be going into Detroit tied, and I mean, it just seems like this is going to end up being a 5-game series. That's just absolutely what it seems like it's going to be like.
Right.
What's the strategy moving forward? Because who's going to pitch game 3? Is it going to be Lively? No, Lively didn't even make the roster. So is it?
It's Cobb. Wait, Lively didn't make the roster?
No, he's not on the ALDS roster.
I did not know that.
Yeah, Lively is not on the ALDS roster. So, okay, Wednesday game, 2:08.
Cobb.
Detroit. So Cobb is there, and obviously
they have not announced their starter yet.
Okay, let's be real here for a second. Detroit's going to throw 2 bullpen games. It worked against Houston. It did not work against Cleveland in game 1. It didn't work at all because Cleveland came out of the gates absolutely flying. And if you're Cleveland, but here's the thing: if you're Cleveland, you did exactly what you needed to do. You went out there, you absolutely shut down that Detroit front end of the bullpen. And here's the one thing: our lovely friends on UCSS, the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, I believe specifically Jay Crawford was talking about this and saying, if you notice, it was 1-0. Jose Ramirez had that error that ended up becoming an RBI double. They actually appealed to get that changed, and they won. So that is no longer an error on McKinstry. That is an official RBI double for Jose Ramirez. They got that changed because, honestly, if you want my opinion, good. Should have been. That's a very, very tough play. And honestly, an error given to McKinstry that, I mean, I'd like Zach McKinstry for the most part, but that's, again, a play that would have been really, really tough to make. So absolutely something that I think deserves of an RBI.
We talk about tough play to make. How about that catch Stephen Kwan had in left? That at the time,
hit the ground.
I think it hit the bottom of his glove. See,
I think it hit the ground.
Watching the play live, I thought ground 100%, but in the replay, it looked like it caught the thumb of the glove, and
it very well might have. I saw something really zoomed in and close up, and it looked like it hit the ground. I mean, again, I could not watch the game live.
No
I had to sort of watch reruns, and I don't reverse that one. That one could stay where it is. That one could stay in out. That one's fine. But anyway, with what I was saying with Jay Crawford, as soon as Jose Ramirez hits that RBI double, the infield comes in. Do you know what that tells you? What does that tell you when it's a 1-0 game in the bottom of the first inning and the manager and AJ Hinch pulls the infield in? Taven, what does that tell you?
Best player in baseball's up.
And Josh Naylor? No.
Oh, I thought we were talking about Jose.
No. They pulled the infield in after Jose Ramirez was standing on second base. It was a 1-0 ball game with nobody out, and Josh Naylor was at the plate. What does that tell you?
Off the top of my head.
Lost you on this one?
Yeah.
It tells me, and Jay Crawford would agree with me this as well, because, and I'm so sorry, Jay Crawford, I'm absolutely going to steal this from you. I love you, Jay Crawford, but he had said something very smart. And I heard that and I was like, wow, I 150,000% agree with what you just said. So I will repeat it here for all of you in case you did not hear it. Jay Crawford said that him pulling the infield in tells the Cleveland dugout, tells the Cleveland fans, and tells all of the baseball world, we're not going to win a game if Cleveland puts up 2 runs, 3 runs. Just because Cleveland's pitching rotation, once they get into the bullpen, is too good. Obviously, they solved Emmanuel Clase. That's probably going to give them a little bit more confidence. But AJ Hinch did not seem to have the confidence in his lineup to get the amount of necessary of runs necessary to be able to win that game, even if the 1 run would have been all that Cleveland got. Pulling the infield in is a sign of weakness, and it shows the sort of lack of confidence that AJ Hinch has in his batting order. Do I blame him for that? No, not necessarily. I mean, Carpenter got a pitch that Clase probably could end up placing a little bit better and just went yard into the area that's become a wind tunnel there. Look, this is a Cleveland team that, if you're taking a look at everything that's happening throughout this Detroit series right now, there's no reason why you can't go into Detroit and win both games. Skubal has to rest, and these are the only 2 games, by the way, where you go back-to-back. The only 2 games. Yeah. So it changes your bullpen strategy a little bit. It probably changes the players you're going to roll out in the field and in the lineup a little bit. But I think if you're Cleveland, you got to come out with that lineup that you did in game 1 and just absolutely mash early. If you take that lead early, I mean, again, we'll see how Alex Cobb pitches. Hopefully it's not an absolute disaster, but honestly, when they even pulled Tanner Bybee in that game, I didn't mind it. Your bullpen is fantastic. I'm not worried about Clase giving up that 3-run homer. He 99% of the time is going to get you 3 outs. That's just the absolute bottom line. Yep. He's going to get you 3 outs 99% of the time. I'm not worried about it. Go out there and smoke the bullpen games like you did in game 1. Win game 3 at least. If you don't win game 4, I mean, obviously you have to face the monster and Tariq Skubal, but they might even save Tanner Bybee for then that game 5 if it ends up getting there. In my opinion, you win game 3, you can pitch whoever you want there to start game 4. Maybe they start with an opener, a guy like Walters or someone. You lose game 3, Bybee's got to go in game 4.
Obviously. Yeah. And I mean, you kind of said it. I mean, you don't even need 5 out of your starter with this bullpen. You just need to get into the 5th with your starter, in my opinion. And that's all Cobb needs to do tomorrow.
Yeah, and all the Cleveland offense has to do is first or second time through the order, they have to get production from the bottom of that lineup. They have to.
And with that bullpen, I think you only really need to put up with anywhere between 2 and 4 runs just to be safe. But I mean, with that bullpen,
I think an average of about 4 runs would suffice. Like that's going to do enough to win a playoff
3.
series.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I'll take the extra insurance run with 4, but I mean, yeah, 3 right there. It, again, just so happened there were 2 guys on base, and Clase ends up giving up that homer, and they really couldn't generate anything offensively in that game because you're pitching one of the best pitchers. You're hitting against one of the best pitchers the game has seen this season, and probably will continue to see over the next couple of years. But Detroit is scared. They really are scared. You look a lot of their tactics, like pulling the infield in, and even some of the lineup changes that they made. They are terrified. They are scared. They know that they have to play a perfect game, and if they had 5 Tariq Skubals, well, series would be done. That's a
season would be done. They'd win the whole thing. If they had 5 Tariq Skubals. But so here's my thing: if you go to a game 4 and you take game 3, what? You said it. Do you go with the Walters bullpen game, or would you rather roll the dice with a guy like Gavin Williams, or maybe both? Maybe start Williams and then for a couple innings and then just go bullpen?
That's the interesting conversation to have, right? So if you win game 3, then what do you do? Because obviously there's this sort of dichotomy, right? You probably want to save Tanner Bybee for an eventual game 5, or so here's the thing, right? You win game 3. Let's just assume for the sake of this exercise that Cleveland takes a 2-1 series lead Wednesday afternoon. Perfect. Done. Okay. Let's move on now to the Thursday game. A bullpen game, you could, because you're going to get a day's rest before it goes back to Cleveland. You could pitch Tanner Bybee and end the series right there, or you could go with that bullpen game. Hopefully your lineup does enough. That's just such a weird and interesting question to answer, and it's definitely where Stephen Vogt is going to make all the money that he's making as a manager this year if he decides to pitch Bybee. Obviously, if you lose, Bybee's going in game 4. No question about it. Maybe you pitch Gavin Williams, or maybe you just throw everything out of your bullpen and say, look, we're going to pitch everything we have out of our bullpen. We're going to start Walters. We're going to go to Sobrowski. Then you're going to see Herron, and you're going to see Clase, and you're going to see Gaddis and all the other relievers that come in. And maybe you have a full on bullpen game. Fine. But if you win game 3, the conversation becomes interesting, because do you pitch Tanner Bybee in game 4 if he's available and healthy and rested and everything of that nature? Or do you try to pitch a bullpen game and save Bybee for game 5 and have Bybee, even though if you go out and win game 3 and 4, then now you can pitch Bybee game 1 of the championship series, which will likely be on the road against the New York Yankees.
Right. Personally, you're going to have rest time before that, and I think Boyd's good enough to go game 1 of that championship series. So Bybee's going in this series. I think if you get game 3 tomorrow, then let's just say we do, I say you go with Bybee in game 4. I can't stress it enough, do not want to go to game 5 to face Skubal. And I know you would have Bybee going too, but Boyd did as good as he could do. The bullpen, everybody up to the 8th.
Boyd did as
perfect as you could, and you still couldn't win with you have to score, and I don't think that's possible against Skubal. Obviously it is, but it's one of the hardest things I think there is to do in baseball after watching that game yesterday. So I'm putting everything on the table, kind of like this we saw DeCenzo do in game 2 of the Erie series. could either go to the bullpen. I know it's different, but he could either went to the bullpen or went with Davenport to close it out, and he chose Davenport. I think you go with Bibee, kind of in this same thing, and throw him in game 4.
What's your
and
opinion
take it
about
in
them
Detroit.
using a kind of playoff opener? Like if you open the game with Walters, like they did at the end of the regular season, if they open a game with Sobrowski, I'd be even fine with that. I think that'd be I think that's fine.
So I think it's fine, but I think you have to, just with what you're dealt now, I think you have to go with Bibee in game 4. If you win tomorrow too, win or loss, I think you got to go with Bibee just to throw your best gun out there.
They have not announced who they are going to be going with there in game 4. They have not announced that. We know that Alex Cobb is going to be pitching. And again, because Tariq Skubal pitched yesterday, they are not going to be pitching another starter there in that game for Detroit. It will be a couple of bullpen starts for them. And thusly, I mean, you just got to do what you did if you're Cleveland there in game 1. I mean, Bibee pitched fantastic. The bullpen came in and shut Detroit down. You had 8 hits in that game. You pushed 7 runs across. The only thing that I will say is, yes, you have seen Tariq Skubal once now in the playoff series. Obviously, good pitching is going to beat good hitting any day. But good hitting can still prevail, especially if you see a pitcher twice. And you're going to see the pitcher twice if there is a game 5 to be had in the same ballpark, which is absolutely massive. And I know it's Tariq Skubal. And I know Skubal, and I know Skubal's really good. Trust me, I'm just as terrified as every Cleveland Guardians fan out there. Please win the series in 4. Do not let us face Skubal twice. If we do, let's go back a little bit to June or July. And the Guardians saw Skubal well in one game. It was a game that I was at as a fan. They got 10 hits against Tariq Skubal. They could only push 1 run across. And that was the difference. And Detroit was hitting that day and everything like that. I think McKenzie was going, which...
Oh, God.
Yeah. You're going to see him again if there is a game 5 to be had, and you're going to see him in the same ballpark, and it's your home ballpark in front of your home fans. The environment in Cleveland was electric in game 1. Less so in game 2 because there was less to cheer about. Not a lot was happening. And then obviously the boos and sad things happened there in the top of the 9th inning.
I also don't like our chances in win or go home games. I mean, you just take the 20s. Obviously, it's different teams, but 2016 World Series went 7 and you lost. The playoffs ALDS against the Yankees 2 years ago went 5 games and you lost in that. So I want to not big on the winner go home.
Here's the difference in what those two teams are, because I hear a lot of people talking about this is 2016 again. Obviously this team is better than 2022. Let's be quite honest. Let's be quite honest here. The 2022 Cleveland Guardians made the playoffs because the Twins choked as per usual, and the Royals, Tigers, and White Sox were nowhere near a playoff conversation spot. The division was just not good. That's a Cleveland Guardians team that maybe besides you add Shane Bieber was nowhere near as good as the Cleveland Guardians team we see now.
They were still a pretty solid team, but I agree, nowhere near now.
Still pretty solid, nowhere near as good as they are now, even though the win totals are exactly similar or pretty darn close, right? This is 2016 on steroids. It is a pitching rotation that is stitched together. It's a lineup that has a lot of young stars that a lot of people are going to look at and say, oh, you know, I've heard this guy is pretty good. Well, have you ever watched him play? No, not really. I've just heard, you know, he's a good up and coming player. And then you watch him hit and you're like, wow, that's, and this bullpen had 2 guys back in 2016. Why are the names escaping my mind?
Miller and Cody Allen.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. It was Miller and Cody Allen. Those were the 2 guys. You have at the very least 6 or 7 in this bullpen. I know everyone is going to talk about Herron and Gaddis and Clase, but Walters and Sobrowski still have not given up anything.
Can't forget about him.
Smith. I mean, you've got and Cade Smith has been fantastic, by the way. He's been lights out. He's been fantastic. This is a bullpen that you put your full trust in. Full trust. I don't care that Clase gave up that 3-run homer. I still trust him with my life.
For sure. Yeah, you pretty much just nailed it. I mean, stitch together pitching rotation, and then the bullpen just, I think, well, obviously the best that we've ever had, but one of the best in all baseball. Class A, on pace, potential Cy Young runner. He's not going to win it, but just unreal season out of him. Hunter Gaddis has been lights out. Tim Hare and Cade Smith has just stepped up in a huge role. So just every one of those guys I trust, outside of the shaky Eli Morgan, but I trust the rest of them. Man, I really like them.
Yeah. Keys to game 3 really quickly from you. Lineup is going to come out hot. We need the best of Alex Cobb. And by the way, short leash. If he lets 2 runners on with nobody or 1 out, get him out of there.
Vogt doesn't play around with that too. I mean, you saw him put Class A in the 8th. So I think Vogt knows, unlike Tito, it's time to get him out. Tito kind of stick around with guys. Vogt's quick in and out, which I like.
Quick thoughts there as well to close out the podcast. I think we've touched on everything we need to for the rest of this series. Hopefully, we are previewing a championship series in our next episode here. But what do you think about Tito to the Reds?
Yeah, good thing I brought that up. Interesting. I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna let you start because I really don't know.
I think A, good for him, and B, a competitor like Terry Francona, you're just not going to keep out of baseball. Are you kidding me? Come on now. You're not going to keep Terry Francona out of the world of baseball. That is ludicrous. The reason he stepped away from Cleveland is not because of the success level or because he wanted a different fit or everything like that. And I'm sure a lot of people out there know this, but for the people that don't, he stepped away because he needed to focus on his health. Not wanted to, needed to. So it was a really good decision on his part to step away. Going to Cincinnati, I mean, look, I know the Ohio Cup rivalry is there and whatever. I'll tell you right now, the only franchise out of the 2 that cares about it is the team that we talk about and the team that we root for. That's the Cleveland Guardians. They care about that thing. You heard Hunter Green in an interview after the Guardians swept that 2-game series, and he just said, I mean, yeah, Cleveland cares about it. Us, that's just another baseball game. Francona will make sure it's not just another baseball game, mind you. Let's make something perfectly clear. Francona will say, look, the Ohio Cup is coming to Cincinnati, but just look at some of the talent that Cincinnati has. Ellie De La Cruz, one of the best players in baseball. Jonathan India, some of the pitchers they have there in that starting rotation and in that bullpen as well. I'm telling you right now, man, I know the Cubs are going to improve next year, at least should, if they make some moves. Yeah. Feels like we say that every year about the Cubs. The Brewers, from what we saw this year, should still be there. If you want my opinion right now, Reds make the playoffs next season.
I definitely think it's possible. I mean, you saw Tito do that in 22 with he's got something with a lot of young guys, and it's dangerous. You have obviously Ellie De La Cruz, Jonathan India, Hunter Green, so he can definitely make something happen. And you mentioned that division's not a knock to the NL Central, but I think it might be the weakest division in kind of baseball. I mean, everybody's kind of there, and kind of there together.
AL obviously, West was pretty weak this year.
Yeah, I would probably say those 2 though, but I think they can beat anybody. Pittsburgh, I think, will be really good in 2 to 3 years. I've been saying that forever just because of the minor league guys that they have, but it's going to take a minute for them, obviously, to still
Everyone's
keep going.
in AAA or the majors Cubs, for Pittsburgh, though. I mean, you saw that with Altoona. There's not really anyone down there besides maybe 1 or 2 guys that you look at. So Pittsburgh has got to get the best out of everyone they have.
And I think the Cubs are going to stay around 500 too. I think the Cubs are going to stay around 500. I'm blanking on who else. The Brewers are going to be pretty solid, so that's who they're going to have to obviously contend with. And then St. Louis isn't anything special, in my opinion, either. Again, a young team.
I mean, it's St. Louis. They have a big payroll. They might be trading a lot of their pieces.
But at the moment, I'm not seeing anything that's like, to be scared of St. Louis.
From what the Cubs have shown the past couple of years in a team that everyone thought, yeah, they're going to win the NL Central, then they fall off. They haven't gotten what they needed to. They haven't done what they needed to in free agency and really made that big splash that is really going to help them. Brewers win that division next year, but I mean, you take a look at something else. Pete Alonso might be leaving. the Mets. I think the Reds at very least take a wild card spot next season. I mean, I know very early preview, don't even know what the roster or the 40-man or anything in the minor leagues are going to look like there with Cincinnati. Telling you right now, with Tito as that manager, he's going to get the best out of his players. I think the people in Cincinnati are going to love him. Cincinnati right now, my dark horse pick to make a wild card spot. I said this about the Royals, by the way, this year, and I was right. So we'll see if I go 2 for 2.
I will tell you who will be on that 40-man roster now that Tito's there. Brian Shaw will be coming back into the league to pitch with the Cincinnati Reds.
We'll see about that one there, buddy.
100%. That's his boy.
We'll see. Okay, anything from the chat before we get off here? I got other podcasting duties to attend to.
Got nothing.
Pretty quiet today?
Yep.
Not even our good friend Ethan showed up?
No, not today. I think Ethan's caught up at work right now, so he might be listening. He probably
what did we get up to?
Big old 58 today. So
all right, I like
pretty good for not our normal time. So
yeah, you know what? I'm done making scheduling promises because it just seems like we're never at our normal time. We'll be back at some point next week, maybe this weekend. Who knows? Maybe. Potentially. I'm going home this weekend, so it'll probably be around Tuesday or Wednesday, just because I'll be in Ohio with friends and family. So we will be in the same state again. I catch a plane on Friday. I go back on Tuesday. So maybe Tuesday night, maybe Wednesday. I don't know. We'll figure something out. And obviously, those of you that follow us on Twitter or X, whatever it is you want to call it, it's scrolling on the screen right down there. Now go follow us. You will get about 3 hours notice, 3 to 5 hours notice before that show goes live the day of, as we always post it down there. So can't think of anything else. Go Guards on Wednesday and Thursday, only back-to-back games of the series before they close this thing out. I believe Saturday is going to be that, man. Saturday is going to be a packed day. Yeah. Ton of college football on. Game 5 is going to, man, gosh dang it. Why does game 5 have to be a Saturday? All right. Well, hopefully we don't need a game 5. Yeah. Hopefully we'll need a game 5. Okay, sir. I'll sign this one out. You take it from here.
Appreciate everybody tuning in, and go Guards. Pretty much.
Go Guards, baby.